Hey everybody, Cody here. Just wanted to chime in real quick. There was a comment we made in the podcast about a banning of Golos, where I say I think the year 2023 is when Golos was banned. That is wrong information. Golos was banned in 2021, and so I just wanted to give that little caveat here at the beginning, just so people were aware that we did mess up there, and wanted to recognize it. Another thing we want to talk about is this was recorded 2 weeks ago. At the time it was being recorded, and in between then the announcement came out that the rules committee and CAB were being kind of like dissolved, and the ownership of the format was being given to Wizards of the Coast. And so we don't get to talk about that in this episode. Um, the conversation we have about the ban list and like what happened with the RC and all that, I think is worth keeping in this episode, even though it's behind a little bit. I would give just a quick anecdote here. I'm optimistic about the future of Commander. I think Lazz is as well. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to keep playing it. We're going to keep talking about it. It is our hobby. It's one of the things we love and enjoy. So yeah, I don't think this podcast is going anywhere, no matter who owns the format, who runs it, who controls the ban list, all that. Personally, for me, if you were one of the people who reached out and threatened death upon people in the rules committee or the CAG or anybody in their Discord, you are not the type of people that we want listening to this podcast. That is insane behavior. You really should reevaluate who you are and look yourself in the mirror. It's just not acceptable in any standard over pieces of cardboard, no matter what the price of those cardboards were before or after a ban. Yeah. Enough of my rambling. Please enjoy the episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Brew Review, a Commander deck building podcast. I am one of your hosts, Cody, alongside my best friend, Lazz. How's it going,
Hello.
Lazz?
Good. How's it going, man?
It's going good. It's going good. I have a trip coming up in like 2 weeks. To Colorado. Excited for that.
What are you doing in Colorado?
Some hiking. Just exploring. We're gonna go on a train ride. Go up a giant mountain. So that's kind of interesting. But it's really just I'm unplugging from everything and we're just gonna go enjoy ourselves for a week.
All right. I thought you said you had no more vacation time, and that's why you couldn't come visit me.
No. This is the last of my vacation time, last of my PTO.
Okay, so you managed to find vacation time when it comes to you and your significant other going on a
How
trip.
dare I?
But poor old Lazz up on Long Island.
Hey, I'm coming up next summer, so we can swim and play Magic at the same time, because that seems like it's going to mix well.
It is going to mix well. That's why you sleeve your cards.
Yeah, we sleeve. We double sleeve, triple sleeve, waterproof sleeve.
Well, first of all, this is a Magic the Gathering podcast where we talk about decks and we brew decks and go through them and all that good stuff. I don't usually do the intros, but we'll just get that out of the way in case people are wondering what they stumbled upon. I forget what YouTube channel it was. They were playing with their slabbed, graded cards.
Oh, Pay Money Wubby or something like that?
I forget exactly what it was. But so it was just like a huge stack of all their plastic slabs. And they're like, I have to shuffle and put this at the bottom of the deck. That's what we should do and play in the pool.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it would work. I mean, it would keep them all safe. It's a lot of money to send all that to PSA to slab them, but sure.
I'm sure we could just buy slabs.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I just sold a bunch of Jeweled Lotuses and Mana Crypts. So we're rolling in dough for the podcast.
Making some bank.
We're
going to talk about a giveaway coming up where we're giving away a full art foiled Jeweled Lotus.
Okay, hold on. We did not agree to this. Oh.
It's worth less than the stamp you send it with.
Yeah, right. At this point. So hey, the day we're recording this, the Commander's Rules Committee dropped a huge bomb of news. There's been a new banning. And this is the first banning since Golos, which was back in 2018? 19?
No, it was after that.
It was after? I don't know when.
I feel like it was shortly before you started playing. When did you start playing?
Let's see. Oh, yeah, you're right. It wasn't too long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was June 16th, 2023. Wow. Okay, I don't know why I thought that was so long ago.
Yeah, I have no idea either. Because after
Um,
him, everyone's like, all right, King Kenworth's been banned next because it's the
yeah.
same thing.
So yeah. So today they announced that Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt, Dockside Extortionist, and Nadu Winged Wisdom have been banned in the format, which has caused quite an uproar on Twitter, Discord, all the social medias.
Not for me because I'm broke.
Yeah. Yeah, like, so for us, like, it's always been a house rule that you don't play these cards. Obviously, Nadu's new, but like the other three, like, it's been a house rule you don't play these cards. Like, you don't play cards that are associated with CDH, and these are very much cards that you would associate with that. When did y'all like establish that, Lazz? Because I know I kind of came into it later.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. There was never. It's not like a rule that you can't play it. It was just like no one was going out there and buying these expensive cards.
Yeah,
I think our buddy Nick might have a Dockside in one of his decks just simply because he had bought the pre-con that it was in and has the card. But for the most part, since we were all just playing casually and with each other, none of us were rushing out there to buy a $70, $80, $90 card. I think I was kind of the first one to break the bank for a card because I spent $50 to buy Edgar Markov. Like that was, I think in our pod, that was like the first like, oh wow, you actually spent money on a card for some reason, I got a lot of money. So, I'm sure if someone opened it, we'd be fine with it, but none of us were really opening those cards and things like that. So we kind of just got used to not playing with them. And then I think you busted out didn't you play one of those? Or no, you
I
had
don't think I did.
the one ring. Is that what you used?
Oh yeah, I have the One Ring. Yeah,
We'll
which
give you shit for
everyone
that.
gives shit for. They're like, oh, Cody, come
But
on.
yeah, that's the extent of what we do is just give people shit.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but it just feels like since I started playing like with you guys, like we don't play those cards, so like this doesn't really impact any of us,
Right.
and like I see both sides of it on like the CDH standpoint because it's like, oh, like a bunch of decks just got ruined because these cards are banned. Other people are like, oh, this is like a good shakeup for the format because now we get to see other stuff thrive and things like that. As someone who's like looking at building a CDH deck, I am so glad I didn't pull the trigger on a Mana Crypt like the 2 times I was going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I pulled 2 Jeweled Lotuses. I sold one a long time ago, and I pulled one recently. And I was like, I'm just gonna hold on to this as like an art piece because it's so beautiful. And now I'm like, cool. Now I can like frame this thing and never have to fucking worry about it losing value ever.
Make it into a necklace.
Oh, there you go.
Just
I
punch a
saw
hole
a
right in there.
guy on Instagram/TikTok. He drilled a hole through his deck and then put a binder clip through it, and he carries it like on his keychain. And I was like, I don't like that. That
That's
hurts.
definitely one way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it's a cheap deck.
A lot of people online talk about how this ruins the format just in general because we've banned fast mana, and I can understand that. And
I like how they
people who
ban fast mana and then they're like, but we're not banning Soul Ring because I knew that was going to be the first thing that came up. They're like, it's kind of the flagship card of the format, so it stays in there. It's like, all right, so you literally are just picking and choosing what fast mana you want, which hey, whatever.
It's tough with that one though because like it's in like every precon. There's like 2 I think it's not in, and so like I think it's hard to do that, and unless like they can get WotC to agree that like, hey, going forward past whatever the next commander deck set is. I don't know if there's any in Foundations. But like going forward past that, there are no Soul Rings, and just like whenever a new player gets a older precon, like it's just kind of a good faith thing, being like, hey, just so you know, there's a banned card in there. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't see the problem with it. I don't think it's going to affect Commander all that much because those are cards that for the most part thrive in CEDH, which are much faster games, and you need access to that fast type of mana, But as far as regular Commander is going, I don't really see that being a shakeup. Then again, I've never really played against any of those cards because I don't play competitive Commander.
Yeah.
I think I'd be more shocked if someone was plopping down those cards at a table at the local game store on a random night. I'd be more like, all right, well, what are you doing here? You came here to win? Is that what? Okay, congratulations, you won. Hope you had fun. Like, if you're not competing, playing CEDH, then I think, all right, fine, you just take that card out. You can work around it.
Yeah, so like Rachel Weeks made this comment one time that, Commander is not about like going and playing with strangers. It's about like finding people that resonate with the same idea you have and then like forming a pod with them and like playing with them routinely. And I know like we're very lucky that like we have a group of friends who play and all that, so it's really hard for some people. But like I think I resonate that a lot because like I can count on my hand like how many bad experiences at like command fests I had. Like I've told you about them. I've talked about them on this podcast.
Yeah.
And it's like I was playing with strangers. But on the flip of that, they're having like really fun games I've played with strangers. Like there was my first ever CDH game was with a group of strangers I didn't know. Like things like that. I mean, I play with a lot of people online that I met through the Twitter community, and like those were complete strangers at one point, and now some of them I consider like really good friends, and like I enjoy the games with them. But like, there is something I think to be said about yes, the ban list is now updated with these 4 cards. But if you still want to play with those cards, if you have a group of people who have similar mindset, where it's like, hey, we want to play high power, where like Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus are allowed, you can do that. I think you just need to realize that like when you're sitting down with strangers, the idea of the rules committee's list is that like you need to communicate that stuff and be like, oh hey, I'm gonna take these out because not everyone's cool with them.
Yeah, well,
So like
and the whole thing is too is like you said, unless you're playing with people the other assumption is you're showing up to a Friday Night Magic and playing against people who are playing with precons, like just precons out of the box, or a slightly upgraded precon, or whatever the case. And for you to be throwing down these huge hitters, it's like, okay, like I don't know. I don't understand the concept of pub stomping and something like this.
Yeah.
They're like kind of like it's like in video games, smurfing. I try not to smurf because they don't feel like good wins. I don't want to just sit down like, oh man, these people have no idea how to play. Wait till they see this, CEDH deck in hiding that I've got, and I can win on turn 4. It's like, okay, well, that's what you came at. I guess you really needed the win. You'd rather have the win than have a good time playing, and that's the type of person you are, I guess. Which, hey, that's fine. There's a table for that. There's a group for that, but I think it shouldn't be the default. When you're showing up to an event and sitting down at a table, just like bust out this powerful deck.
Yeah, I think for everyone who's like responsible Magic players, there is that one guy from that one command fest I went to who only brought a Yuriko deck and won on turn 4 with Thassa Oracle, Demonic Consultation. And we were all just like, okay, bud, hope this was fun for you. I don't understand what the point of doing this was. So like, there's always those scenarios. But yeah.
Well,
it's like I said, this ban doesn't really affect us at all.
It doesn't really affect me. If I played CEDH, then yes, I'd be pissed because these are very powerful cards. It'd be the equivalent to getting rid of, I don't know, Soul Ring and Swords to Plowshares and Far Seek and getting rid of cards that are for the most part in every single deck. But for CEDH, yeah, I think these cards are in most decks, and that's going to definitely shake up that format a lot more. And I don't know how you deal with that. I don't know how you kind of rectify that. I see a lot of people online saying, all right, it's time to have separate ban lists and things like that. But I don't know. It's the bans aren't even handed out from WotC. It's a different committee. It's like a separate entity all on its own. What stops WotC from just being like, you know what? No, the next precon has Dockside Extortionist in it again. Like, know.
Well, I think there is a little bit of because there's the MTGO is run by WotC, and so the rules committee has to work with WotC on that front, because if it's banned in the format, then MTGO has to update. So there is a little bit of like talking there. So like, I mean, yeah, but I mean, like, look at it, like Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus were printed last year, like again. So like, yeah, I don't really know what's going on with that. I mean, I don't know if that was one last cash grab from WotC or what, but
I remember when they did the secret layer with Uro. Yeah, Uro tied in whatever that green card with
Nature's Wrath, I think it was.
Yeah, and I remember I was so excited because that was a card I wanted, and it was super expensive. And they did the secret layer, and then like as the secret layer was active, I think after I even purchased it, they said, "Oh, by the way, we're banning that in several different formats." It's like, well, then why are you making a secret layer with a card that you're actively in the middle of banning? Like that, that seems like a cash grab. So I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah.
I think how do we fix this? What's the solution for CEDH? Because I know this is a problem I always have in video games. Like this was a big problem I remember in Destiny that I always complained about. Is that they said, pistols are too strong in PvP and in the Crucible, so we're nerfing pistols. It's like, well, I don't play PvP. I don't play the Crucible. I play story missions, and I like to use the pistol. Why are you nerfing it into the ground? Like, why can't you nerf separately for competitive formats and, just your casual fun format? Why can't you do it? And it's kind of the same thing here. It's you have EDH and CEDH. Why do they not just have separate ban lists?
Yeah, I definitely think I think it's working towards that. I think the thing a couple weeks ago that kind of went to shit was too soon. I think if it had happened around now or next week, when like it's been a week out from the ban, it's like, okay, hey, we're starting this thing. I think it might have gone over a little bit better. I did read a little bit on Twitter that there's some people working on something in the background. I think it's coming. I mean, I think there's going to be a split, just because I think that format wants to play the most broken, most busted stuff,
which is fine. There's a place for that, and there's other people that want to do that.
Yeah, they're really. I mean, tournament CD, like tournament commander CDH, whatever you want to call it, has like grown like tenfold, even more than that this year. So I mean, I get that, and so like I definitely think there should be a place for that. But I think commander should be about sitting down with buddies and just shooting the shit, and having fun. And sometimes going to an LGS is the only way you get to play commander, and I don't want people's experience to be ruined because of that. Because somebody there is like, "We play my Mana Crypt and my Jeweled Lotus."
Yeah, but you're never gonna make everyone happy because you remember after they showed the Universes Beyond stuff way back, and they were like, "All right, let's make a format of Commander, but no Universes Beyond cards and things like that." It's just like, okay, at what point do you just reinvent, standard with 100 card singleton? Like, okay, it can only be from the last 5 sets, and then it's like, all right, let's just, at the end of the day, you're not playing it for money. You're playing CEDH for money. So, yes, that should be regulated. But I kind of feel like regular EDH is that's the whole point of Rule 0. It's no man's land. Just kind of do whatever you want. And you are judged by the table and the people you play with of whether it was a cool move or not.
Perfect example of this. Mass land destruction is very much widely a no-no, but Armageddon is not a ban card. So yeah.
And it's funny because I talked to my cousin that, he grew up playing Magic in the mid-90s, and he played competitively, a lot in a bunch of different shops in the city, New York City and stuff. And he just kind of fell out of Magic in the late 90s. And I'm like, get back into it. And I show him cards, and it's just his mindset is completely different. He's like, well, you should be winning very quickly. Why don't you just blow up everybody's lands and make it so they can't tap their lands, and just don't let a single creature of theirs land on the board. It's like, well, no, that's not fun to do that. He's like, what do you mean it's not fun? He's like, you're trying to win, aren't you? I'm like, I guess I would like to win, but I kind of just want to see cool stuff. And he's like, oh, that's why I can't play with you guys. Because he's like, my mindset, I'd be looking for those cards that let me win as quick as possible. And I would make the game miserable for everybody else because I'm trying to win.
Mm-hmm.
All right, just some people are built like that, I guess. But
Yeah.
stick those people in CEDH with their own ban list and let them deal with it.
And it's so interesting because, like, as you know me, you've known me for many years. You know how I get when we're playing like Overwatch or a competitive shooter. But like with Magic, like I'm not like that. Like I just want to sit there. And do you feel like I am like that at Magic?
I've seen some angry Cody moments in Magic when you're getting
Okay.
targeted.
I'm not talking about like anger. I'm talking about like super competitive. Like I have to win every single game. I've definitely thrown some games of Magic.
It's hard to tell because you win every single game whenever we play, so
I
it's
don't
kind of
agree
hard
with
to
that.
tell.
I don't agree with that. I think my win percentage is like 26% this year, but yeah.
Well, there's just no comparison, because in Commander when we play it, there's no option for you to join the opposing team's voice chat so you can talk shit before coming back. That's not
those
one of
are
the
the
options
days.
here. Those are the days.
I was a
Like a month
toxic
ago.
Okay, I've not done that in like 3 years.
No, come on.
I
You
don't think I
talk shit,
have.
deadlock or something?
Oh, I don't have I don't have it to where I can hold down a button to talk, but yeah, I definitely talk mad shit about some people. Guy the other day was playing Kelvin, this like healer class, and he was like 1v5ing the entire team, and I was just like, "What are you doing?"
That's
Like,
my type of player.
That's my type of player. We're charging as Reinhardt. Anyways, it's a Magic podcast. So yeah, I mean, so like, do you think this means like we'll get more bans going forward, or do you think it's going to be, I mean, a while before they do anything else?
I don't know. What honestly though, what else are they going to ban? Because people have been asking for bans for Dockside since it came out. That has been at the top of the list. Nadu, as soon as that got spoiled, people were already saying, that should be banned day one. So, those ones I don't know. Mana Crypt seems kind of weird that they banned that just because it's like, I've seen people take a lot of damage from that, and it's quite similar to Soul Ring, at the end of the day, but it was prohibitively expensive. So but that's not a reason to ban a card. So I don't know. I really don't know what other type of cards that they would ban. I kind of liked when they banned Golos because that was just kind of 5-color good stuff. So I don't understand how you ban that, but then don't ban King Kenrith or don't ban the Prismatic Bridge or things like that. But at the end of the day, it's like, all right, well, it's a casual format. Commander is a casual format, so I don't even really know why there's bans in a casual format, but
whatever. I think there's like a philosophy behind it because it's like trying to make the best, like, I think it tries to make Rule Zero easier in a way, I think is their idea, at least in my opinion.
You have to say Rule Zero, no Dockside?
I mean, you could say that, I guess. Yeah, good point. I don't know. Yeah, I guess, like, I don't know what else there is to ban, really. I do wonder if this all happening does cause the Soul Ring conversation to get there, maybe?
They said they're not banning Soul Ring. It says the flagship card
but
of the format.
If a community of people is loud enough, I don't see why you would not ban it.
A community of people have been more than loud enough this whole time for Dockside. And how many years has it been?
That's a good point.
4 years?
Yeah. That's a good point. Didn't think about it like that, yeah.
It's just, I don't think they care what the people have to say because at the end of the day, it's not their product. Like, who cares? It's a separate rules committee. So it's really like, who cares? But I don't know. It's just hard. I'm trying to find like a good approximation because I play a lot of video games. I'm just trying to think of like other things that were casual and then turns competitive throughout the years, like Smash Brothers Melee. Like that was not a game made to be competitive. That was pretty much like a Mario Party ass type game that they made, and then it just got super sweaty, super competitive, and stuff like that. So It's like if a tournament organizer said, all right, Link is banned. Can't play Link anymore. It's like, all right, well, I could see that affecting tournaments, but it shouldn't really affect at home play,
Yeah.
But it's kind of similar. I don't know. I don't know enough about this game to make any judgment. I'm not on any committees.
We'll make our own committee.
We'll make our own
side
Hey,
hookers.
You you and I were talking about making our own format of only universes beyond cards.
Oh yeah, Beyonder. I really want to try that. I think once
should.
Marvel comes out, I'm gonna see what I can do with it. It sounds fun.
Absolutely. When Marvel comes out, that's why I keep on trying to tell people, because they're like, "Oh, how are they going to explain Marvel in the universe?" Who cares? I don't care.
Who's the
Not care less about that. The thing is, once Marvel comes out, then this becomes a completely different game for me personally, and I'm sure for other people, because now this becomes, Marvel the Gathering, where every single one of my commanders is a Marvel card that I build the 99 with existing cards. Like, it's going to fill that space for me that I want of a competitive Marvel card game.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I was kind of worried that that's what Disney Lorcana was going to end up doing. I was like, I got to start playing Lorcana to play Marvel characters, and then for some reason WotC got it instead. I was like, okay, even better.
Yeah,
I'm not complaining either.
Yeah, when the Marvel stuff comes out, I mean, we saw a huge, I think Mark Rosewater put out something like they saw a huge influx of new players with Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. Marvel is going to fucking triple that, I imagine. It's going to be insane.
The amount of people I know that cannot give a shit about Magic, that are like, well, when the Marvel set comes out, I'll probably buy a box, just to open some Marvel cards.
They're gonna make money hand over fist. It's gonna be insane.
I think it's going to be the beginning of and we're doing another Marvel set. We got Marvel Masters. I think they comes out every year.
They're doing with Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings is set for another release, a couple years from now, and they're going to do the same thing with Marvel, which is really cool, but also makes me really bummed that we might not get another D&D set ever again. Because I really want another D&D set.
Another D&D set would be awesome, and I think it's just so funny that the one IP that WotC owns is the one that they can't seem to sell.
It sucks.
But it sucks. But you know what? Who cares? You want D&D stuff? Play D&D. There's no option for me to play a Marvel trading card game, is there? I'm sure maybe in the fringes there's a game
Marvel
that had
Snap, but we hate Marvel Snap around here.
Marvel Snap that's barely a game.
Yeah. Tell Justin that.
I tried to play it. It sucks. He's like, oh, it's cool. Look, this whole spot makes it so any character you play dies. Well, that's not cool. I don't want my battlefield to change every single match. You can't build a deck for that. It's like, no, you kind of can. You kind of can't. You can only play 5 mana creatures in this one spot, and you're playing a weenies type deck. You just miss out on a whole battle. Once again, this is a Magic podcast. We don't gotta talk about other things, but Marvel Snap sucks.
But yeah. So hey, let us know down below in the comment section. What do you think about this ban list? Are you affected by this? Are you not? Are we way off base? Let us know.
Do you even care?
Yeah, do you even care? Is it you woke up and you're like, oh, whatever?
Yeah, I was kind of like, oh,
cool. More Magic news. Dustmourn has just dropped. As we're recording this, the pre-release is happening, and later this week, the actual set releases. I got to write 2 articles for a website called manapool.com.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I got to upgrade the Death Toll Precon, which is the Golgari Reanimator one. I did it around the Alt Commander, Ren Maw, Creaking Nest. It's Scarecrow that is really fucking badass, and so I got to write a guide about that. And then also the Miracle Worker Precon, which is the Esper deck led by Amanatu. Got to upgrade that one a little bit. It was really cool.
It was a lot of fun.
Oh god, yeah. It looks strong, straight out of the box. Holy crap. Yeah, it was a really cool opportunity. I'm really appreciative of Manapool for letting me write those articles. They hooked us up with an affiliate link that'll be down in the comment section. So if you want to buy any of the cards we talk about today, you can find them on that site. Obviously, we don't shill for people that we don't actually use. I actually picked up some cards from them. It was super simple, super cheap. I actually compared the prices to some other sites. It was
Much
actually
cheaper.
cheaper, and the shipping was cheaper if you're buying like 1 or 2 cards. And eventually, they do offer free shipping if you buy from a certain vendor for a certain price. The cards came in really nicely. Like they came in a little shipping shield thing, and they shipped, and they were in like 2 days later. So it was
Great.
a really great service. I really recommend it if you're looking to buy some cards.
All right. Well, yeah, go check out those articles, check out the site, use the
Yeah,
link.
we'll have a
or
link
don't.
down below.
That's fine too. It's still a cool site. Things were cheap.
Yeah.
I was looking at all the alt arts and alt frames and stuff. I was like, it's
I
not
feel like
that bad.
really competitive prices. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, we got some more news just around the show and stuff. Started uploading the podcasts to YouTube, so that's now a new option for you people who listen to stuff on YouTube or watch stuff on YouTube. It's just the audio with a generic picture. There is like a little sound bar that goes up and down, so if you're into like watching that, sure. Figure I do something. It's just not a random picture just the entire time.
Want to drop some acid, listen to a magic podcast, and watch the EQ move? Let's do
exactly. So those are uploading. I think I had episode 1 through like 5 on there, and then I'm taking a break from uploading older podcasts and just doing the newer ones. So this will be up on there as well. So yeah. And then last bit of news, just revolving around the podcast, we are setting up a Discord that we want to invite people to. We're going to start doing like community games, playing with people. It's going to be a nice place to discuss like the list from of the podcast. So plan is that the next Brew Review episode, where Lazz and I review a deck, in the description of that will be a link that you can click on that'll bring you to the Discord. And we will be able to assign like roles and stuff, so you get pinged whenever someone's looking for game.
Yeah, well, there's looking for games. There's deck list discussions. There's general Magic chat. It's everything. I don't really use Discord, so I was like, oh look, you got all sorts of different rooms in here and different folders and chat rooms you can talk in. I'm old. I don't use this type of thing, but it seemed very slick the way it was set up. So be able to have review different deck lists and stuff like that too. Kind of set yours up on there and ask for advice and things like that too, and hopefully make a nice little community on there and get some people to play some games with.
Yeah, for sure. That's the plan. We want to just try to interact more with the community that listens. So yeah. All right. So Lazz, I think we've bantered enough. I think we've
bantered for 30 minutes.
Talked shit enough.
That's the show, guys.
That's the show. Good night. No, we're here to talk about a deck. It's Lazz. It's your turn. Hit us with it.
All right, everybody. Come near, young and old. We're going to talk about the deck this month is Cleopatra, Exiled Pharoah. This is a Golgari commander. It's 2 generic, black and a green, and this is from the Assassin's Creed set. So this is one that I just straight up missed when it came out.
Yeah.
And kind of while like looking up other decks, this kept coming up as one of the suggestions. And I'm not going to lie, I assumed it was one of the older cards, just kind of in a new border, because they used to have actual like historical characters in some of the old sets. And no, this is from the Assassin's Creed set. So I was reading it, I'm like, you know what? I want to build a Legendary Matters deck, and this seems like a great pilot for it. So let's get into it. This is a legendary creature, Human Noble. It's a 2/4, and it has at the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 other target legendary creatures, which is very good. Mm-hmm. And then it also has, whenever a legendary creature with counters on it dies, draw a card for each counter on it. You lose 2 life. So this just seems like an absolute powerhouse of a card for legendary creatures, just because you're putting counters on everything, you're making your legendary creatures even larger, and then whenever any legendary creature with counters on it dies, you draw a card for each counter on it. So it's not even your legendary creatures. It's any legendary creature that's on the board. If it has counters on it and it dies, you are drawing cards. And usually these things are, this effect may only happen once per turn, or whenever a creature with counters on it dies, draw a card. This is draw a card for each counter on it. So you got a big card out there with, 5 or 6 counters on it just from the other cards in the deck, and it dies, you are drawing 5 or 6 cards and losing 2 life. And it's Golgari. It's super easy to get cards out of your graveyard, bringing them back. It's easy to gain life, and it just seemed like a lot of fun. It's a little bit more expensive than I would have liked for casting costs. Being at 4 mana, I like to be around 3, but it is what it is. And that's the commander for this one.
Lazz, I feel a little personally that I did a legendary matters deck, and then now you're doing a legendary creatures matters deck. Like, what's going on there?
The thing is, I was offended that a website reached out to you to write an article about a Golgari deck, and I'm like, Cody has never played a Golgari deck. I've got several Golgari decks.
Sorry.
Reach out to me, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take his thing then.
Okay, I gotcha. I like Cleopatra a lot. I think do you have a +1/+1 counter deck? I don't think you do. I think this would be new for you.
I tried to build one, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah. So I like this for you. And I didn't realize it said whenever a legendary creature with counters when it dies. I missed that completely. So yeah, that's really especially strong because there are a lot of +1/+1 counter decks in our meta. So
yes, there is. Everyone's meta.
Everyone's meta, really. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, every card just gives counters on it.
Yeah, let's do a quick little deck breakdown. I went through your list, and we'll kind of talk about some things here and there. So for lands, we got 35 lands up in this deck.
Nice and low. I know how you like it.
Nice and low. Like how you like it. How only you like it, no one else.
What did it start out with? 30 lands? 32 lands?
It was like 32. And I messaged you and I was like, Lazz. And then I was like, Michael, what the fuck are you doing?
Don't worry about it. I had a plan.
I will say, for your low land count, I really feel like everything else was pretty good across the board. For ramp, you had 13 pieces of ramp, which is pretty good. Card draw, you had 14 pieces of card draw. Hell yeah, raise that number up. It helps. I especially feel like it helps when your commander can give you card draw.
That's the thing too. I have a lot of ramp in here. I have a decent amount of card draw, and then the commander itself, like I said, it's not draw a card when one of those creatures dies. If I only got one creature out there that I know is about to die, and I put 2/1/1 counters on it, at least when it dies, I'm getting 2 more cards.
Yeah,
so you're getting a lot of card draw.
Yeah, it's very strong. For removal, for single target, we have 5 pieces of single target removal. And then for removal board wipes, we have 1 board wipe.
That's low too.
A little bit, but I do feel like the ones you have are good. Because it's a lot of like destroy permanents. It's not like destroy enchantment, destroy creature. Like you kind of got stuff covered. And then the board wipe is a very good board wipe in Toxic Deluge, which is 2 generic and a black as an additional cost to cast a spell, pay X life. All creatures get -X until end of turn, which like some protection spells can't protect from that. So, like that's really good.
Over under on how many times do I play this deck before I deck myself? Just by there being a board filled with legendary creatures and counters. There's a board.
My concern more was
you get to draw 30 cards.
You have a bunch of creatures out with 1/1 counters or whatever counters we put on them, and then someone board wipes and you die to the you lose 2. That's like 10 creatures going off.
That's whatever. I play life gain decks. I'm no stranger to playing around at low life, just trying to survive while you can.
And then I broke it down a little bit more with. Sorry, my article thing dropped for some reason. This category I'm calling Legend. Wait for it. Dairy. Of your 31 creatures, 27 of them are legendary.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's
And then
almost
of
all
your
of them.
100 cards of the deck, 32 of them are giving you +1/+1 counter support. So if you can include your lands, that's like 60 cards. So yeah, I mean, pretty good.
I like I said, I saw this commander and just kind of right away, I was like, you know what? It ticks a lot of boxes. I want a legendary Mathers deck, and we did a legendary Mathers deck for you a bit ago, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot of fun, and I like legendary creatures. Legendary creatures are just so cool. They're the best creatures, kind of. They're pushed.
It's
So
why we
why
play
not?
this format. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, well, honestly, it is. So why not make a deck with as many of these pushed type cards, pushed creatures as you could? So, and it's Golgari, which, I think might be my favorite pairing. My favorite color pairing.
You've told me a few times it is, yeah.
I try to splash other colors in there every now and then. It doesn't really work. It usually just goes right back to Golgari. So, yeah, I don't know. It just seemed like it'd be a lot of fun, and I play tested it a bit, and yeah, it gets a little crazy. It's a good time.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that I feel like there have been so many Golgari like +1/+1 counters kind of creatures, and Cleopatra really takes advantage of all those. Like, we'll start from the top here. We do Grakmaw, the Skyclave Ravager. This is a black and a green for a Hydra Horror. Grakmaw enters the battlefield with 3/1/1 counters on it. Whenever another creature you control dies, if it had a +1/+1 counter on it, you may put a +1/+1 counter on a Grakmaw. But then when Grakmaw dies, you create an XX black and green Hydra creature token where X is the number of 1/1 counters on Grakmaw. So this is really good because Cleopatra says keep putting counters on Grakmaw, but then when Grakmaw dies, you get to draw the cards from Cleopatra, and you get a horror back in return, or a Hydra back in return.
It's like this synergizes so well that you would think it could be an alternate commander for the deck, which I've mentioned before. I really love I love when you can build a deck and have cards in the deck that could pilot the deck, because you're not always going to have your commander out there. It's just it's not feasible to happen, and I feel like there's a lot of cards in this deck that, okay, if my commander's out, this is kind of doing the same thing, or this is at least helping build towards the game plan that I have, so that once my commander is out, it can kind of do its thing right away. So it kind of sucks when you have a commander. It's like, all right, well, I need to get my commander out as quick as possible, and then I kind of need to start getting my pieces in order so it can kind of do what it has to do. And this is kind of, no, if the commander's out there, good. If the commander's not out there, at least all these other creatures are coming, putting counters on each other, growing all the other legendary creatures you have, and then as soon as Cleopatra hits the battlefield, then it could do its thing kind of right off the bat. So it's really cool. I like it. I like this
deck. Some other kind of Golgari +1/+1 counter commanders we have in here is Pelucranos Unchained. This is a 2 a black and a green for a zombie Hydra. Pelucranos enters with 6 +1/+1 counters on it. If it escapes, it enters with 12 +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever damage would be dealt to Pelucranos while it has +1/+1 counters, you prevent that damage and then remove that many 1/1 counters. So a really good blocker. And since it's coming in with 6 or 12, depending, still a lot of ways for Cleopatra to draw some cards whenever this goes away. It has 1 a black and a green. Pelucranos fights another target creature, and its escape cost is 4 a black and a green. Exile 6 other cards from your graveyard. Fun fact, like 3 months ago, I looked at this commander and was like, I kind of want to build this as like a weird like graveyard like escape thing. Just seems fun. So yeah, I like that.
Some other cool Golgari cards in here that can kind of swap out for commander is, was it Rayhan, Last of the Abzan?
Yeah.
One generic black and a green. It enters the battlefield with 3/1/1 counters on it, so it's already entering with what it needs. And whenever a creature you control dies or is put into the command zone, if it had one or more 1/1 counters on it, you may put that many 1/1 counters on target creature. So this is great too, because if you have this out there and it's pumped up and it dies, you now get to draw those cards, and you're not losing those counters. They're just going on to another creature that you own. And so when that dies, you're going to draw even more cards. So it's just, there's so much of that going on in this deck. And these are just the Golgari cards we're reading off, the kind of the Golgari cards that play off this. What is this? Skullbriar, the Walking Grave. This is right up my alley, just because it's a 2-cost commander. It's just black and green for a 1/1 zombie elemental with haste. Skullbriar, the Walking Grave whenever Skullbriar, the Walking Grave deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on it. Counters remain on Skullbriar as it moves to any zone other than the player's hand or library. So this thing dies, it keeps its counters on it.
Yeah.
This thing, whatever happens to it, you're pretty much keeping those counters, and I don't know. It's just that works really well with Cleopatra, because if there's counters on it and it dies, you're drawing the cards with those counters on it, and then it's still in my graveyard with all those counters. So if I do have some of these cards that recur back to the battlefield and it dies again, it's already starting with the counters on it. So it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, very good way to repeat that. On top of that, there's just a lot of like Bristly Bill Spine Sower came out this year in Thunder Junction.
That's the one card I might have to cut just because it's so goddamn expensive, man.
It is rather expensive, yes. It is 1 in a green for a plant druid, has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. It then has 3 green, double the number of 1/1 counters on each creature you control. It is very strong. So that's why it's so much mana.
And the thing is Cleopatra, it's any type of counter on it too. So if I have other, there's even more upgrade space for this deck, because it says whenever a legendary creature with counters on it dies. So, even if there's flying counters, haste counters, that, whatever other types of counters you can put on them, that kind of all counts too. And that's something that I didn't really take as much advantage of. I kind of focused on the 1/1, but this is see how it plays.
I think it's fair, just because her first ability gives 1/1 counters. Like we were going to talk about it in the cuts and ads and everything, but I looked at the Myojins, which are the ones that enter with an indestructible counter, which you can then remove for like some benefit usually. But I was like, I don't know if that's worth it, because it only enters with one of those counters. +1/+1 counters are just so plentiful in the game.
Yes, they are.
That you can take advantage of a creature dying with like 6 1/1 counters. Like Pelucranos is pretty much a 4 mana, potentially draw 6, depending on how it dies. So I mean, so yeah.
I'm just going through. There's still some fun cards in here. Rishkar, Pima Renegade, 2 generic and a green. When Rishkar enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Each creature you control with a counter on it has tap to add a forest. So that can kind of really, really help you out too, and help you draw some of these larger creatures in the deck, because you're kind of able to start tapping your creatures for mana. This one's annoying. Kerbis Harvest Celebrant, X green and green. Kerbis Harvest Celebrant enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the amount of mana spent to cast it. And then you're able to remove a 1/1 counter from Kerbis and prevent all damage that would be dealt this turn to another target creature with a 1/1 counter on it. So if all your legendary creatures have 1/1 counters on it, and this thing enters with X amount of counters, and you're able to kind of just move your 1/1 counters around as you see fit, this is kind of like a fog effect that you're able to keep on the board. If you got 5 counters on it, it's not even a paid effect. You can just remove a 1/1 counter from it. So you got 5 1/1 counters on it, you remove all 5 of them, and prevent any damage that's dealt to your other creatures. There's just a lot of kind of cards like that in here that kind of play off of each other.
Yeah. One that it doesn't do anything with +1/+1 counters, but I just love this card, is a Chevel, Bane of Monsters. It's a green and a black for a human rogue with Death Touch. Regular upkeep, if an opponent controls no permanents with bounty counters on them, put a bounty counter on target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. And then whenever a permanent opponent controls with a bounty counter on it dies, you gain 3 life and draw a card. Just a really nice, like, we have ways to fight creatures, we have death touch creatures, just it's once we put these bounty counters on something, it's gonna die. So I like that a lot.
I pre-ordered that card when they first spoiled it. I'm like, I'm gonna build a cool deck with bounty counters, and it was kind of like, there's no good way to win with bounty counters.
There's only like 6 cards that reference bounty counters. What the fuck?
So it's just kind of sat there, but now at least I get to use it.
Yeah. Any other creatures you want to point out, Lazz?
As far as other creatures, not really. Like I said, there's just a lot of fun creatures on it in here. Sirach and Goreclaw has trample. Other creatures you control have trample. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you put a 1/1 counter on it, and it gains haste. This is kind of a real nice haste enabler in Golgari, which is kind of nice to be giving these huge creatures haste and trample. And then after that, just kind of more fog effects. So it's this Fane the Broker, 2 generic and a black for a human warlock. It's a 3/3. You're able to tap him to sack a creature, put 2 1/1 counters on a target creature, or you can tap him to remove a counter from a creature you control and create a treasure token, or you can tap him to sack an artifact and create a white-black inkling creature token with flying, and then you can pay 4 mana to untap him. So that's kind of very versatile to kind of put counters on things that you need, or if you need mana, you're able to remove these 1/1 counters and make treasure tokens with it, which kind of feeds into some of the other cards I have in here where you get benefits for sacking permanents, so sacking treasures, sacking creatures, sacking whatever.
Yeah, very strong. Like that one a lot. I had that one in what was it? That Forge Neverwinter Charlatan treasure deck I made for that pre-con or budget league I was in. And yeah, he put in some work sometimes because being able to sack treasures to make little blockers was very helpful. Last one I'll shout out, and then we'll move on to the sorceries in the deck. Lily Bowen, Raging Grandma. This is from Fallout. It's a 3 generic and a green for a mutant warrior. Has vigilance, and Lily Bowen enters the battlefield with 2 1/1 counters on it. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you double the number of 1/1 counters on Lily Bowen. If its power is 16 or less, otherwise you remove all but 1 +1/+1 counter from it, and then you gain 1 life for each 1/1 counter removed this way. You have so many ways to put 1/1 counters on creatures that this thing is going to get big, but you always can kind of teeter that whole edge of do I need life right now? Am I losing all this life from the draw 2 thing, or the draw for each counter, lose 2 life thing? Or am I getting focused on somebody? Let's just remove all these counters, gain 15 life. Hell yeah. So I like this card a lot.
Yeah. I have some other cards I like, but I saw them on your cuts list, so I'm not even going to talk. We'll talk about it there,
Okay. Moving on to sorceries. Some ramp, the board wipe, got a little bit of recursion. One card I love is Fangs of Colonia. It's a 1 and a green. This is a newer card that just came out with MH3. I say newer, and there's been a set or 2 in between there. It's a sorcery. It says put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, then double the number of 1/1 counters on each creature that had a 1/1 counter on it. Put on it this way. It has overload 4 green. Just a fucking house. So good in a +1/+1 counter deck. I love this card so much. I had put this in when I swapped Minsk and Boo to Helena and Elena, and I was so excited to play it, and I fucking destroyed that deck because I didn't like it.
I liked this card. This is one of those cards that I just didn't know. I know we do the Magic podcast and all that, but believe it or not, I do not see every single card that is spoiled or that comes out.
There's too much product these days.
There's too much. And so this is an uncommon, an uncommon for Modern Horizons. So yeah, it kind of slipped under the radar. And when I was kind of making this and I saw that card, I was like, you know what, that's right in there. And another card kind of like that was Unnatural Restoration for a sorcery, 1 generic and a green. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand and then proliferate. Like I said, there's the recursion in here, which is great. But the fact that you're recurring back to your hand and you're proliferating, so you're kind of able to, it's doing double duty in the deck. You're getting one of your bombs back in hand and you're giving everything else more counters. And it's just like I said, there's a lot of little things like that in this deck that the card is pulling its weight in multiple areas of where you need it to. So that kind of really put together very nicely. I was very surprised. Sometimes you kind of have to fiddle with decks a lot more, and this is one where I think I told you, I'm like, all right, I'm kind of starting my rough draft, and I texted you late that night. I was like, I think it's done, and you're like, all right, well, we're not recording for another 2 weeks. I don't think there's anything else I need to do to it. I've gone back and I've looked, and especially with some of the new cards coming out, I've looked, and yeah, I'm sure there's some swaps that can be made, but with some of the newer cards. But as of now, the deck kind of really put together nicely, and I like where it's at.
Yeah. Like we'll talk about this in the custom ad section, but like I had a real struggle with getting to cuts. Because I felt like the deck flowed really well. Like I play tested it a couple times in Moxfield, and I was like very happy with how it all worked out.
Like, damn it, who built this deck for Lazz?
I was like, where do you pull this list from?
Where's this from? Searching Moxfield, like, all right,
what did I put in here? And I mean, the thing is, like, when, like, there's just so much, like, I was so shocked, like, how much +1/+1 counter synergy fucking Golgari had. I was like, what's going on? Like, where are all these cards coming from? But, like, it's really easy to find cards for this.
I like it because it's like the opposite of my Griswold deck, where I'm instead of taking away 1/1 counters and taking away 1/1 power toughness from creatures, I'm giving 1/1, so, and that's another Golgari deck. So that's Golgari giveth and Golgari taketh.
Yeah,
and this time Golgari is givething and givething.
Yeah.
Nailed it. No edits.
Moving on to instance.
Nothing sexy.
Wait, what?
Nothing sexy in my instance.
I like the new MDFC lane. We'll talk about that for a second. A couple remove pieces, a couple ways to draw. I really like that nasty end. Works really well here because most of the deck is legendary creatures. I actually have this in Shanid as well, so look at that. 1 and a black for an instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature. Draw 2 cards. If the sacrifice creature was legendary, you draw 3 instead. Very good rate. Like it a lot. Obviously, you never really want to be sacking stuff, but if it's getting removed anyways, you can kind of like sneak this in and still get the card draw from Cleopatra and this at the same time. Tons of fucking cards in hand. And then, the MDFC land we talked about. Revitalizing Repass. This is a hybrid Golgari mana, so just 1 mana on the front side. For an instant, it says put a 1/1 counter on target creature. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Very strong. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then on the back, it's just a tap land that taps for black or green.
There's Inspiring Call on here as well, which I do like. It's 2 generic and a green. Draw a card for each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it, and those creatures gain indestructible till end of turn. So it's kind of a nice unbreakable formation, or something like that. Except you're drawing a lot of cards. That's the biggest problem with this deck. I think I'm going to be drawing too many cards, honestly. But we'll see.
I think as long as we're able to get into our whole like unlimited hand size thing,
I hope okay. So.
But also maybe that's okay. Maybe we won't talk. It's not the cuts or ads or anything, but it's okay to discard down hand size if we can get some of the Golgari's way to bring stuff back from the graveyard. So that is something to look at down the line. Yeah. Moving on to artifacts. 12 artifacts. This is a new one for you, Lazz. I don't feel like you usually have this many artifacts.
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. I always have a lot of artifacts, and it's always the first section I go to for my cuts because I'm like, I'm not building a Voltron deck. I'm not building an artifact deck. You know, I like my sexy ass creatures, but man, there was just a lot of good artifacts. There's a lot of artifacts that care about legendary creatures. And I wanted to play those.
Yeah. So one of those.
Well, what do you got?
Go ahead.
I got Excalibur, Sword of Eden. The card's badass.
Yeah.
It's 12 generic mana. So I'm not gonna lie, it's a little pricey. But spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of historic permanents you control. Historics being legendary creatures, historics, and sagas, I believe. Equipped creature gets +10/+0 and has vigilance. And to equip a legendary creature is only 2 mana. So this is kind of you realistically, since it is a Legendaries Matters deck, you should be able to kind of get this out there for much, much, much cheaper than its 12 mana cost, casting cost. And you're giving something +10/+0 and vigilance. Is just that is an absolute good ass way to win a game when you can kind of make something so absolutely enormous. Another card that I really liked was the Andorel Narsil Reforged. That's from the Lord of the Rings set there. It has Ascend. If you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. It is whenever equipped creature attacks, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. If you have the City's Blessing, put 2 1/1 counters on each creature you control instead. That is ridiculous in this deck. That is absolutely ridiculous that you're able to kind of just put 2 1/1 counters on every creature you control every time you attack with this.
Yeah, I like both of those a lot. Really good equipments. I want to get Excalibur for Shanid. I just don't want to pay $10 for it. Is the thing.
Excalibur for Captain America. That's what I want to get.
Yeah.
Sorry, we want to talk spoilers. I guess do we not talk spoilers? Marvel spoilers.
Marvel spoilers.
That's all we'll say. But this card seems like it'd be really good for Captain America. Shocker! Captain America's gonna be in the Marvel set.
Yeah.
Sorry to ruin that spoiler.
Don't know if people were expecting that one.
Iron Man might be in it too.
For me, Heroes Podium, really strong. I like this one a lot in Shanid. It's pretty much like a giant anthem, just because you get to play all these like legendary creatures out.
Mm-hmm.
It's 5 mana, legendary artifact. Each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other legendary creature you control. It also has pay X, tap it, look at the top X cards of your library. You may reveal a legendary creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest onto the bottom of your library in a random order. It's mainly as that first part. Like, I don't think I've ever paid the X. I don't think you'll probably ever need to with how many cards you're drawing per turn.
Absolutely.
But that +1/+1, obviously it's not a counter, but it is such a strong boost to the board that it helps just like win games. So I like this a lot.
One card, and I'm glad to see you didn't cut it, because I really went back and forth on it a lot because it doesn't have exact synergy with it, but I kind of like it. Is a Whip of Erebos.
It's funny you mentioned that. I went back and forth on it too, but I was like, damn it. Even before I realized it was whenever a legendary creature, I was like, if he's taken 2 for each creature, there's 27 legendary creatures in this deck. 27 times 2. Like, he's getting fucking dinged for some damage. So yeah, no, he needs the lifelink on top of the fact that you can pay for and bring a legendary creature back from the graveyard
to the battlefield.
The battlefield.
And then
it's very strong.
And it gets exiled at the end, or I guess that's not dying, so I guess that part doesn't count. Yeah, exile effect. But yeah, a Whip of Erebos, 2 generic, black and a black. Creatures you control have lifelink. That's pretty much
very strong.
Long and the short of it. You need some life. You need some lifelink in here. And I don't know, the only other way I really have to gain life in here is the Great Henge. You know, I got the Great Henge because you're able to tap that to add mana, gain 2 life. That's also giving you counters and then you draw a card. So as far as artifacts go, I don't know, kind of going through this now. I'm looking at it, and maybe like a self cut. Can I do a self cut here?
Sure.
Maybe take out Power Fist. Generic
I
and a
like it.
green.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
think the only issue is that if you get it on like a weak creature, it's not really adding very much. But I don't know.
I want to take out Power Fist and put in something else that gives me no max hand size. Because right now the only
Okay.
thing I have artifact wise is Thought Vessel, and I
Yeah.
know I forget what the other card is. There's another one. It's a Endless Decanter. Is that it? Maybe
Decanter of Endless Water.
I was close enough. You don't have to
You're
correct me.
close. You're close.
Just maybe take out Power Fist or something for that. I don't know, because kind of going through this again now and talking it out loud, and it's like there's a lot of card draw. I'm gonna be drawing a lot of cards probably.
Yeah.
So
No, that's fair. I think that's a fair cut.
yeah.
I think with all the +1/+1 counter stuff you get, I think you'd be fine to do that. So yeah. Moving on to enchantments. You got your standard like branching evolution, hardened scales, doubling, but you got some recent newer cards in here that I really like. Do you want to talk about any in particular first?
Communal Brewing. I like this card. I want to
Yeah,
add
it's
this
really
to
good.
like 3 different decks already. Enchantment, 2 generic and a green. When Communal Brewing enters any number of target opponents, each draw a card. Put an ingredient counter on Communal Brewing, then put an ingredient counter on it for each card drawn this way. That's a lot of words on here. Whenever you cast a creature spell, that creature enters with X additional 1/1 counters on it, where X is the number of ingredient counters on Communal Brewing. So, a lot of words. Basically what it boils down to. It's a little pun because they're all boiling in a big cauldron on the card. I guess it's more of a visual pun. Is enters target opponents draw a card. Pretty much everyone's going to want to draw a card.
Yeah.
So any number of target opponents draw a card. Put an ingredient counter on Communal Brewing, then put an ingredient counter on it for each card drawn this way. So you're putting 5 ingredient counters on here because you put 1 on it, and then you put.
I think it's
Is it 4?
4, yeah, because you're technically putting 1 for yourself, and then
And then
3
3
if you
if
give each person a card. So you
So-
have 4.
and
So
then
it's a 3 mana. Each creature enters with +4
plus
counters.
4 1/1 counters on it.
Yeah.
So everything's entering big. It's just
And
it's fun.
the beautiful thing is that you run a couple proliferate spells in the stack. You can proliferate the ingredient counters, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's true too. So everything will start entering with 5, 6, stuff like that. So I really liked Communal Brewing. I thought that was a fun card.
Yeah. Stocking the Pantry, I think, is super good for 1/1 counter. It is 1 green mana, and it says whenever you put 1 or more 1/1 counters on a creature you control, put a supply counter on Stocking the Pantry. Pay 2, remove a supply counter from Stocking the Pantry, draw a card. So you're triggering this every turn with Cleopatra, but also other times you're doing this throughout the turn. So you're gonna have a lot of counters on this. And let's say Cleopatra gets removed. Now you have another way to draw cards pretty easily by just paying 2 generic. So that's really good.
Yeah. Another card I liked, Innkeeper's Talent. 1 generic and a green, so it's a saga card. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control.
Technically, it's a class.
Oh, it's not a class. Sorry, it's not a saga.
Yeah, just technically
just technically
pushing my glasses
on,
up.
and all of a sudden, you can pay green mana to level 2. Permanents you control with counters on them have ward 1. Fantastic. And then for 4 mana, you can upgrade it to level 3, which is if you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many of each of those kinds of counters on that permanent or player instead. So this is something like the Communal Brewing or something like that, where you're kind of putting twice as many counters on everything. And I could see this kind of getting out of control. And this is a brand new card. It's from Bloomborough, so
Yeah,
I haven't
very
had
strong
experience of playing with it or against it yet. So I'm curious to see how it goes.
From what I've been reading, it's very strong. So yeah, definitely like that one. I won't take the bottom enchantment because I feel like that's one you want to talk about. So I'll just talk about an older card. It's Retribution of the Ancients. This is a black mana for an enchantment that says pay a black, remove X 1/1 counters from among creatures you control. Target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. this is a really nice way to get rid of some creatures, especially just because you have +1/+1 counters galore going on your side of the board.
I really love that you remove X11 counters from among creatures you control, not just from creature you control, because then you're looking at what 2, 3, maybe 4. This is among creatures, so you just have a whole bunch of things out there. Then you just kind of just pull one from everybody, and you're able to kind of really, really kill some big creatures if you need to. Yeah. And thank you for saving the last one for me, because this card is ridiculous. This card I loved when it came out. I talked about it. I think we might have even mentioned it on this podcast before with other decks. Vraska joins up. This card's so strong. It's a black and a green for a legendary enchantment. When Vraska joins up, enters the battlefield, to put a death touch counter on each creature you control. That's stupid. That is just insane. That you give
strong.
Every single thing on your board death touch, and it's not till end of turn. It's just they straight up have death touch. One, that's strong because it just makes you instantly have an entire wall of defenders that no one wants to mess with. Two, it's great because it's a counter. It's a death touch counter, so it also works towards Cleopatra, where now all your creatures have an additional type of counter on them. So they have their 1/1 counters and the death touch counter. So that's more card draw, more things like that. Then the second part of the card says, whenever a legendary creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So if you weren't drawing enough cards already, now all your legendary creatures that have tons of 1/1 counters on it, that have death touch, when they deal combat damage to a player, you're drawing cards from them as well. Once again, this is not one of those cards that say this can only happen once per turn. It's not whenever, when one legendary creature you attack, deals combat damage, you get to draw a card. It's all your legendary creatures, which, like you said, there's 27 of them in this deck. So you have 27 legendary creatures. You make them big, you give them death touch, and you let them swing in. Chances are they're going unblocked for the most part. And you're just drawing cards on top of cards.
And I think one of the big beautiful things with this deck is that if Cleopatra eats removal like 1 or 2 times, you're still set up in this deck to still draw a ton of cards in different ways. And there's just like so many ways to put 1/1 counters on stuff in
like I said,
the
this
deck.
deck
So
only gets stronger when the commander's out. If the commander's not out, it still does its thing. There's so many cards in here that you kind of like just swap in place of Cleopatra, and it's still doing its thing. Every single card in this deck is working towards the same goal, which is definitely not something you can always say. There's sometimes there's kind of cards that you just need to put in there. Like, all right, well, this is a counters deck, or this is a whatever type of deck, but I kind of really need card draw. So I guess I got to put this, and this in. It seems like there's no fluff in this deck. There's a lot of every card's in here that kind of do the same exact thing, which is put counters, proliferate, draw cards, or recur from the graveyard to, and even the cards that recur, they recur and let you put 1/1 counters on stuff. So it's just everything's kind of harmoniously working together to make the perfect Golgari deck, just so your podcasting partner can get you off of the right articles for websites and not you. It's just great.
I'll like put in a favor. Moving on to lands. We have a couple obviously basics and dual lands and all that.
There's actually lands in this deck that do stuff. Let's say
there
that.
Are.
Sometimes there's lands that don't do stuff.
There is Abstergo Entertainment. This is a legendary land. It taps to add a colorless, or you can pay 1 to tap and add a mana of any color. But it also has pay 3, tap, exile Abstergo Entertainment, return up to 1 target historic card from your graveyard to your hand, then exile all graveyards. So this is really nice because it's a little bit of graveyard hate. But also it can help you get back one of your really important, because historics are legendaries, sagas, and artifacts. So it helps you get back one of your creatures if it's really important to you. Also, if you're playing a graveyard deck, just get rid of all their graveyards. Really beneficial. So that's a really good one. Do you have any others, Lazz, that you want to talk about?
Plaza of Heroes. This is
very good.
One of those cards I bought several of when they came out, because I'm like, this card's gonna be worth money, and it just It went up a couple of bucks, but it seems very strong for lots of different types of decks. You can tap to add a colorless mana, or you can tap to add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast a legendary spell. Easy to do in this deck. Or you can tap it, add 1 mana of any color among legendary permanents you control, which is kind of one and the same for this deck. It's only 2 colors.
Yeah.
And then you're also able to pay 3, tap, exile Plaza of Heroes, target legendary creature gains hexproof and indestructible till end of turn. So kind of, worst case scenario, something of yours that you kind of really need to get going is being targeted. You're able to sack this land, give it hexproof, give it indestructible, and you live another day, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, very fair. Yeah, I like this land a lot. I have run into Shanid as well, and it's just a nice little piece of protection. You also get your Reliquary Tower and your Karn's Bastion. Karn's Bastion, I feel like 4 mana to perforate sometimes is a lot, but when you just need that a little bit of damage to go over, it just helps out so much.
Yeah, it really does.
I like it. All right.
And I think that's it. Everything else just kind of generic lands, dual lands, tap lands, stuff like that. But that's the deck.
It is. It's a very good deck. Very strong.
Thank you.
Card Kingdom total is close to 500.
Go by that.
Can't go by that?
Because that's the thing. This is... I'm not paying that much to build this deck because I already have a lot of these big expensive cards. Like the Ozolith being $45 is insane. I bought a couple of Ozoliths when they were $10. So the fact that's 45 is crazy. So that drives up the price, and then also Great Henge drives up the price a bunch. Bristly Bill drives up the price a bunch. So
yeah,
that's the thing. Card Kingdom price on here is $4.97. You could easily take 3 cards out of this and drop it down like $120. So it's just, like I said, I have a Great Henge that I had opened. I have a bunch of Ozoliths that I purchased, but Bristly Bill I don't have, so I'm probably not going to buy that one just because how much is this thing even right now? On Card Kingdom.
Bill is going for between 40 and all that. I will just say, if you go by the manapool.com price, this deck drops from $500 to $330. So
look at that, and that's without taking out prices. I'm telling you, I don't know what it is about the site. It's just everything was so much cheaper.
It's
I remember you first
deals.
said hey, this website asked me to write some articles. Check them out. Their prices seem pretty good, and everything seemed suspiciously cheap. So
yeah, suspiciously, it's like they're.
Wait, is that not good advertising?
I don't think so.
They're suspiciously inexpensive.
They're very nice people, and we're not shilling. They're really spending good cards. So yeah, yeah, I like this deck a lot, Lazz. Like I said, I had a real tough time with cuts. I did have a couple ads I was sending your way. Ads that you told me you apparently had cut previously. So
yeah,
we'll talk about that a little bit. So yeah, let's hop into those. So today I got 10 ads and only 5 cuts for you. My goals with the ads were a little bit of getting either more counters on stuff, different kind of counters in one way, a little bit of protection, and then just some bombs that when you drop them, it's pretty much you're going to win the game. So we'll start with the creatures. I have 8 of them here. First up is Anara, Wolvid Familiar. This is 3 generic and a green for a wolf beast. As long as it's your turn, commanders you control have indestructible. It also has partner. Don't really care about that. And it's a 4/4. I feel like this is just a nice piece of protection for the commander. I don't think it's the most needed. I think you have a couple protection pieces in the deck already. I just thought it was a nice hey, it's a 4 mana 4/4. It's not a bad beater. But it also gives you that protection on your turn to keep Cleopatra safe in case something's about to die and someone doesn't want you drawing those cards. So this is one I'm very much you can definitely leave it, and I don't think you're missing much.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. My commander's got some protection already, like you said, and there's also just a lot of cards that do what the commander does anyway, so
Yeah.
might not be needed.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Next up, I have Kazur, Ruthless Stalker. This is 3 generic and a green for a human warrior. Has partner with Ukima, but when this is a Gogari deck, not a Sultai deck, so we can't use it. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on that creature. Just a little extra way to get 1/1 counters on creatures. You do have some very big, scary creatures that can hit a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting an extra 1/1 counter might be worth it. Is 4 mana for a 3/3 in this deck worth it? I think that's something you kind of got to decide. I don't really know. You do have a lot of like effects that are like when you put a +1/+1 counter on this, put +1 or double them or anything.
Yeah.
So I think there is a nice way to like, this isn't just a 1/1 counter every time you hit. It's going to be like 3 or 4.
Right.
So I think
People
that's
take
kind of
advantage
nice.
of it.
But yeah, another one that I'm kind of like, love it or leave it. Not a big good one. Like I said, this deck was hard to upgrade. Lazz, you did too good of a job. Too good of a deck builder. They should have had you writing articles.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
You have way better English than I do. I barely graduated high school. I'm just kidding. I graduated high school pretty well.
Yeah, it was Louisiana, so.
The ongoing joke is that the high school I graduated from never taught us how to read. So, next up is Corpse Jack Menace. This is 2 a black and a green for a fungus. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters we place on a creature you control, twice that many +1/+1 counters are placed on them instead. And it's a 4/4. You have Winding Constrictor, I think is the card in the deck, which is 2 a black and a green for a 2/3. If 1 or more counters we put on an artifact or creature you control, put +1 of each of those counters on it. And if you would get 1 or more counters, you get that many +1 instead. So things like experience counters would get doubled, things like that. So this is just a more expensive version of it, but also comes with a 4/4 body.
I do like it as and the reason I didn't add this is I'm like, it's not legendary, and at the beginning I was, it starts with the letter C, I work alphabetically, so I was like, all right, well, I kind of want all legendary creatures, and then it got to a point where I'm like, all right, well, there's some creatures in the deck that I just straight up need to have because it help too much, even though they're not legendary, and this might be one of those, just kind of a free way to put twice that many 1/1 counters on creatures instead.
That's fair. Yeah, I respect that. Moving on to now, this one. This is expensive. This is up there with the Bristly Bills of the world.
Mm-hmm.
This is Doric, Nature's Warden. This is 3 generic and a green. This is from the D&D movie.
Should have bought that secret layer.
I should have too.
Why did I not buy that secret layer? So stupid.
It is the secret layer that I constantly like, fuck, why did I not buy the secret layer?
Why did I saw the movie. I saw it in theaters. I love the opening weekend. It was fantastic. Why did I this and the Arcana secret layer? Or Arcane, sorry. Arcane secret layer.
Yeah.
Why did I not buy the Arcane secret layer? It just blows my mind. So sorry. So tangent.
Tiefling Druid, it is Vigilance. Whenever Doric enters the battlefield, search your library for a forest card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. And then it has whenever Doric attacks, you may pay 1 and a green. If you do, transform her. She starts out as a 3/3. When you pay the 1 and a green transformer, she turns into Doric, Owlbear Avenger, a 6/6 with Vigilance Trample, and whenever it transforms, other legendary creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain Trample until end of turn. At the beginning of your upkeep, you transform Doric. This is a house in any Legendary Matters deck that has green in it. Holy shit. I would say it's almost worth the $38 to $40. You know what? Let's do a little bit of mana pool Googling real quick.
Okay.
On Doric.
Watch see how much that's $70.
Yeah, it's like for some reason. It's like, oh, this is not a good endorsement at all.
Never mind. Cut this.
Oh. Do a little search in here. $32.
Okay.
Saving a whole $5 there.
Yeah.
A lot cheaper. Just this card's a house. This is a game ender.
Yeah, legendary creatures get the +2/+2 and trample. That's really good.
And then the fact that it gets vigilance and becomes a 6/6.
Yeah.
So it stays around as a very strong blocker as well. Just very strong.
I like that card. I like that card.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah.
I'll buy that before Bristly Bill just because it's a cool card.
There you go. I'll take it. Seal of approval. Next up, this one is a little weird. I really like this card. I don't like the mana cost. It is Emissary Green from the Clue set. This is 4 generic and a green. Too many products. Whenever Emissary Green attacks, starting with you, each player votes for profit or security. You create a number of treasure tokens equal to twice the number of profit votes. And then you put a number of 1/1 counters on each creature you control equal to the number of security votes. Little fun politicking.
Yeah, fun politicking. You know, the thing is, it's 5 mana for 3 1/1 counters. Like, best case scenario.
Yeah.
And the thing is, everyone knows.
It really depends on what you vote for. Because if you vote for profit, you're getting at least 2 treasures. And then if all the other people pick security, you're at least getting 3 plus 1 plus 1 counters.
Why would they pick security, though? They know I need the 1/1 counters. So they'll be like, yeah, just take treasures.
So then you're netting so much treasures.
Yeah.
This card paid for itself.
Yeah. I hear you.
Like I said, if this was a 4 mana card, way better. It's the fact that it's a 5/5. It's a 5 mana 3/3 that has to wait a whole turn cycle to attack. It's like, am I really going to untap with this? Probably.
It should ETB. That should be an ETB.
Yeah, I wouldn't see an issue with that. Like a one-time effect just on a 4 mana. That wouldn't be bad. Yeah. This one is another one that was very much like, I like it, but I also like totally understand if it's not the vibe for the deck. Moving on to Glissa Sunslayer. This is 1, a black and a green for a Phyrexian zombie elf. Too much going on there. Just pick a lane.
Yeah,
zombie elf, Phyrexian, fuck. First strike, Death Touch. 2 of the best keywords you could have together. Great blocker, great attacker. Whenever Glissa deals combat damage to a player, choose 1. You draw a card and lose a life, destroy target enchantment, remove the 3 counters from target permanent. And it's a 3/3. This was mainly, I just feel like this is a really strong legendary creature, just based on the first strike Death Touch.
First strike Death Touch,
on top of the fact
is huge
that you can pump this endlessly with Cleopatra or any of the cards putting +1/+1 counters on it. Put a fucking Excalibur on her. Hot damn!
So it's a 13/3 first strike Death Touch.
It's just no one's blocking that. If they are, they're stupid.
No,
you draw a card and you lose a life. That's not bad. You know,
I'm already doing that.
You're already doing that. Destroy target enchantment. It just adds a little bit of removal.
Yeah.
Remove the 3 counters from target permanent.
Probably not doing that. But
probably not doing that unless someone is running also a +1/+1 counter deck, or like you have a poison. If someone's poisoning you, you can remove poison counters. You're technically a permanent, right? I don't know. I don't think that's true, but you know.
Yeah, I don't know if he counts as a permanent.
I don't think you do. But you can remove sagas.
Someone's planeswalker.
Or planeswalkers. There you go. Yeah.
Loyalty counters.
I like this one. I think it would fit well. I think it's nice.
Yeah, that one's good. This next one, I don't know how I missed this one.
I know, right? I figured this is like this car I synchronize with you. You know,
this is salt. This too much salt. This card's been used against me too many times.
Fair. This is God Eternal Ronus. This is 3 generic green for a zombie god. Has Death Touch, and then whenever it enters the battlefield, double the power of each other creature you control until end of turn. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. Whenever God Eternal Ronus dies, put it into exile, it dies or is put into exile from the battlefield. You may put it into the owner's library from 3rd from the top, and it's a 5/5. Just a really nice way to finish the game off. Whenever you got all these creatures out with +1/+1 counters, you just double up and go from there.
You get to double up the +1/+1 counters too, then I guess, right? Yeah.
Yes, because it just doubles the power, and since the +1/+1 counters affect power, so yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, no reason why I left that one out. I forgot that one.
Very strong. And then last creature is Mazarek Crawl Death Priest. This is 3 generic, black and a green for an insect shaman. It's a 2/2 for 5 mana, so it's kind of eh. But it has whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Treasure tokens, clue tokens, blood token, all these tokens sacrifice. There's aristocrat decks.
See, this is the one that I had in there and I cut because I'm like, people aren't always sacrificing. If without the sacrifice, if people aren't sacrificing, then you just have a flying 2/2 that costs you 5 mana. So I was like, I had to make room because someone didn't want me to submit a deck with 32 lands. So
I mean, hey, what can you say?
So this is one that I cut, and I think it's gonna stay cut just because, treasure token stuff like that. But if I don't have anything in here that gives people things to sacrifice, so I really have to just kind of gamble on people. I don't know, working around treasure tokens and things like that in their own decks. Fair. Which if that doesn't happen, then it's kind of a wasted card.
That's fair. I'll accept that. Yeah. So those are the creatures. I have 1 sorcery and 1 instant for you. First up is Animist's Might. This is 2 generic and a green for a sorcery. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a legendary creature you control. It has target creature you control deals damage equal to twice its power to target creature or planeswalkers you don't control. So this deck is a lot of legendary creatures. This is a 1 mana sorcery that lets you just dome something out of the game pretty much.
Deal double damage to it.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like it was very strong.
For 1 mana? Yeah.
Yeah. Next up is a newer card. Once again, MH3 feels like it was 9 years ago, apparently. Gift of the Viper. This is a green mana for an instant. It says put a +1/+1 counter, a reach counter, and a death touch counter on target creature, and then untap it. So, since Cleopatra doesn't specify what kind of counters, this is 3 counters for 1 mana. This is a hell of a rate. On top of the fact that you can kind of use this as like a sneaky play.
Touch. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone swings at you with a dragon. It's like, haha, joke's on you.
That's really good. I like that card a lot. Gift of the Viper. It's only 1 green. That should go in several decks I have. And it's a common. I mean, that's the thing. It's a random common from Modern Horizons. I missed it. I just missed it, Cody. I'm sorry.
It's
not perfect.
So also the art is pretty sick. You are him. I believe in you.
I'm not Himothy.
Not Himothy. I hate you sometimes.
What?
I don't know. I'm so stupid. I'm not Himothy.
All right.
Yeah, that does it for the ads. I had 10 ads altogether.
I like them. I think of those 10 ads, there might be 4 or 5 cards that I want to add. So
that works out perfectly because I got 5 cuts for you.
Let's see them.
All right, we got 3 creatures. First up is Nakara Lair Scavenger. This is 2 generic and a black for a human cleric. It has partner with Yannick. We're not running Abzan. It's a 2/2 with Menace. Whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had 1 or more counters on it, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. The best way I was equating this was like a 1-to-1 swap this to Glissa.
Okay.
Because the Menace on a 2/2 versus the First Strike Death Touch on a 3/3, and it has the draw a card, lose 1 life. Whereas this is about creatures leaving the battlefield, and you're already doing that with Cleopatra.
And several other
cards. I don't know. It's a very,
I don't want to kill myself. I think I might kill myself with this deck. I think it I'm
interested to see it be played. How far you, because like that's what I run into with Shanid. I was like, I gotta add so much life gain to this deck because I am doming myself each turn for so much fucking life. So I get it. Next up is Slurk, all ingesting. This is a 5 generic and a green for a legendary creature Ooze. Slurk enters the battlefield with 5 +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever Slurk or another creature you control dies, if it had a 1/1 counter on it, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control that has a 1/1 counter on it. It's a 0/0, but it comes in as a 5/5.
Why don't you like this?
It's at 6 mana. I like it. Don't get me wrong. It's at 6 mana for me. I don't know if it's really worth that effect on a 6 mana creature when I think there are similar cards in the deck that already has for cheaper. And
just
I mean,
whenever something with a counter dies, I get to put 1/1 counters on all my creatures
that have a
1/1
1/1 counter. So I mean, I guess it's strong. I don't know. My fear is that you play this for 6 and someone just like removes it the next turn,
Well,
and
that's
it's
the
like,
thing.
okay, well,
If you look at the mana curve for my deck, let's see, 7 permanents at 1 mana, 13 with 2 mana, 17 with 3 mana, 7 with 4, and then 2 with 5, 2 with 6, 1 with 7. Like, the curve really peaks at 3. And then, 5, 6, and 7, 2 mana, or 2 cards, 2 cards, 2 cards, or 1 card at 7. So, like, there's not really that many expensive cards in the deck. And that's why I was kind of like, all right, well, with that said, I don't know if I'm going to have one expensive ass, like, banger card. I don't know if this is it at that point then. Is there something at 6 mana that could be stronger or better?
I mean, God Turn Aronis is a 5 mana that I think is
better,
a lot stronger.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's set 6 mana for me. Like, I just don't think that effect is worth it at that much. Maybe like same situation with Emissary Green. This goes down to 5 for a 5/5. I'm in. I think it's worth it. But yeah.
Okay.
Last of the creatures is Vadmir, New Blood. This is from Thunder Junction. It's 1 and a black for a vampire rogue. Whenever you commit a crime, you put a +1/+1 counter on Vadmir. This triggers only once each turn. And as long as Vadmir has 4 more +1/+1 counters on it, it has Menace and Lifelink, and it's a 2/2. My only thing here was that you only had, I think I counted 7 ways to commit crimes, because you have to target opponents
or anything they control.
I
can put 1/1 counters on creatures they control. Does that count as committing a crime?
It does, but are you really doing that?
If I put a 1/1 counter on like, I don't know, some tiny token that you got, or some 1/1 that you got, or I put a 1/1 counter on your Birds of Paradise, and that counts as committing a crime?
I'm not going through your deck trying to see if there's any ways for you to put random 1/1 counters on stuff that's not yours.
Yeah, Cleopatra.
I think Cleopatra says your creatures.
At the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 other target legendary creatures. That's not Birds of Paradise. Just
all right, so we're up to 8 ways. Hold on. I guess Bristly Bill. All right, we're up to 9.
Yeah, I'm not buying Bristly Bill.
You're not buying Bristly Bill. Oh, hey, Fane. All right, sorry. Okay, I missed all these. I just didn't think you'd be giving out 1/1 counters. It didn't really seem like your bag. You know what I'm saying?
Well, depends how bad I need that lifelink.
The Menace lifelink. Vadmir's cool. I think people shit on this card when it got revealed, but like I liked it. I was like, it's 2 mana 2/2 that like gets stronger the more you blow shit up. Like fuck yeah.
Or the more you hand out 1/1 counters.
Or that. There you go. So I mean, hey, if you want to keep it,
we'll think about it. We'll think about it.
Next up, I cut a sorcery. It is Casualties of War. This is 2 generic black, green. For a sorcery that says choose 1 or more, destroy target artifact, destroy target creature, destroy target enchantment, destroy target land, destroy target planeswalker. I don't like this card, Lazz. I'm just gonna be straight up honest with you.
Why not? It's
6
like
mana,
a one-sided board wipe.
I really don't feel like it is.
Well, that's what you say now, but when I blow up your target, your creature, your enchantment, and one of your lands, we'll see if you think otherwise.
I don't know, man. Like, I mean, I guess the rate's good for 6 mana, yeah. But like, how many of us are playing Planeswalkers in our meta?
Yeah.
And then like, I mean, I guess destroying a target land's pretty good because I mean, like, I run like Cabal Coppers and Tavash, and like, there's always a fucked up land out there to get blown up.
It's always a Rogue's Passage.
Yeah, always a Rogue's Passage, something like that. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of this one.
All right.
I give you Animus Might instead, you know?
Yeah,
beat some creatures up.
And it was
because a lot of your removal in the deck already was destroy non-land permanent. So it really just if we're adding removal to the deck, I think maybe just do some targeted stuff that some matters.
Okay.
And then lastly, I have an artifact. It is Lightning Greaves. 2 generic. Equip creature has Haste and Shroud. Equip for 0. The reason I went with this one, this is the last cut I made, was because a lot of the stuff in your deck targets, and if it has Shroud, it cannot target.
Yeah, I was worried about that, but I was like, I don't know if there's like one thing out there that I kind of really need, but no, I agree with that. Did I have Swiftfoot Boots in there as well, or no?
You did not. I mean, yeah, if you want that, I think you can make that swap as well.
I don't know. Going through the deck now, it seems like max hand size and lifelink are the 2 things that I really need to
look into. Yeah,
to look into.
I'm sure there's some like black and green creatures that have lifelink, legendary creatures, so you can still keep the theme going. So yeah,
I'm gonna have to look at that in a bit.
Yeah. I like this deck a lot, Lazz. I think it's really good. I'm excited to see you.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to build it for our commander night.
Oh yeah, it's coming up this Saturday from when we're recording.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
I have a secret project I've been working on. I can't wait for you to see.
Do you? All right. Can't wait either. What is it?
I might record your reaction to how it goes. To make a little video for the podcast. Because it is the deck that we're covering on the next episode, so I'm excited.
Do I know what we're covering on the next episode?
You don't.
All right,
I kept the secret, but I've been working on it. I've been preparing.
Oh, I look forward to seeing it. Okay.
All right.
I like the ads.
Just get the Brew Review seal of approval.
Yeah, I think it does. I think I'm telling you, like I said, we just spent an hour plus going through this deck and pretty much every single card. And the first thing I want to do as soon as we finish recording is say, all right, hold on, let me see if there's some Golgari lifelink legendary creatures, or, and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of the mark of a good deck, that we could finish the episode with like, oh yeah, let me tune this thing up a little bit more, because it's very rare that deck kind of just all works together. And this is probably one of the fastest decks I built. I'm not gonna lie. It was just, man, sometimes I feel like I'm in 5 different categories on EDH Rec, and I'm way deep into the the Gatherer there, the whatever that.
Oh, Skyfall and all that,
yeah, like just kind of like looking at keywords and doing all that stuff like that. And this was just quick, man. This was kind of like plug and play, and going through it now more with you. It's like, yeah, no, this needs to happen. This needs to happen, Cody.
Hell yeah. I'm excited, man. It's gonna be good. All right, well, hey, if you want to reach out to us and let us know what you think about this deck, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Brew Review MTG. You can shoot us an email at brewitorscrewit@gmail.com. And yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Episode before this, I got to sit down with Quinn and interview and talk about Owling Mine, which I found out was a 60-card standard deck back in the day. So that was really cool. So go listen to that episode. It's a really fun interview. Next up, we will be having, after this, an interview with Corey from the Urcast pod, followed by our November... Corey, and then we'll have our November Brew Review. We'll have another interview set up. And then in December, we will have the last Brew Review of the year, followed by our top 10 commanders, kind of like a look back at the year. We'll talk about what decks we built this year and played and all that. So it'll be fun.
It'll be fun.
I have been tracking all of my games this year, so I'll talk about that a little bit on that episode. So shaping up to be a good last couple months of the year.
Yeah, it should be exciting.
Yeah, and then we have games coming up this weekend, so I'm excited.
Can't wait to talk about those. And we'll see. Last time, I think I was the only one that didn't win a game, but this time,
got to change it.
This time I might win a game. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think I'm winning, but I'm gonna have fun do whatever I'm playing.
All right, that's fine. That's how I go into every game.
All right. Well, hey, that's been the podcast. Reach out to us. Let us know what you thought, and we'll see you next time. And until then, this brew
has been reviewed.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.